Well, on a somber note, this week is Baby Loss Awareness Week, and more specifically, today is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day, and I think it's very appropriate on the heels of talking about what's just happened with Chrissy Teigen and John Legend.
Yeah, joining us today on Studio 3, we have Amy Stamper, a licensed professional counselor with St. Mary's Mental Health Counseling Department. It is so great to have you and joining us today. This is a topic that affects so many families, and it's a very tough process. And when we talk about the grieving process, I would have to think that it's probably very different for every family who goes through this. But if a family is experiencing pregnancy loss, what are some ways that they grieve? And when we're talking about a support system, how can we as family and friends help them through that?
It is different, I think, and I think a lot of it depends on the type of loss. You know, you're dealing with a lot. You're dealing with miscarriages, you're dealing with stillbirths. Sometimes the baby comes home, there's SIDS or some other type of loss, which makes it a little bit different than something that is anticipated or, you know, with an adult loss. So it is different, and people grieve in different ways. And that's something that I don't think we really understand as people, that we all grieve differently. We have the traditional grieving process, you know, the anger, the bargaining, denial, things like that, but people grieve differently, and sometimes we don't understand that. Some people want to talk about it, some people don't. I think a lot of times after any type of loss, people feel very isolated. They feel lonely. They feel like this hasn't happened to anyone else but me. So I think it's important as family and friends to reach out to them, especially someone who has experienced a similar loss, to reach out to that person. A lot of times miscarriages people don't talk about. A lot of times many people have miscarriages and no one knows about it. And I think it's important to talk about it. I think it's great that, you know, they are as celebrities talking about it, because very few people do. They want to keep things like this private, because it's not a positive topic that we all really, you know, want to talk about and get excited about. But I think it's very important for people to talk about it. And when you find out someone has had a miscarriage and you have reached out to them, talk to them, I think it's great with social media. More people are sharing their stories, their support groups. But I think that's the real important thing, is talking about it, reaching out, so people don't feel like they are alone in the process of grieving.
We obviously just saw Chrissy Teigen and John Legend be very open, like you said, about their situation. And reading through some of the comments, I saw someone say, you know, this is nothing private anymore. And that one really stuck with me and bothered me, because I think it is such an incredible thing that she's sharing her story, because miscarriages are common. Infant loss, I mean, these things are common.
Yes.
So, and I know we all deal with it in a different way, like you said, so you have to be tender when you're handling people who have gone through this type of loss. But let's talk about the workplace for the moment, because, you know, how do you handle that? How can someone support a colleague, an employee, going through something like this?
I think it's similar to just as friends and families, is just reaching out to them, you know, saying, I know you're going through a difficult time. I think it's hard. People tend to, when something negative happens, a death of any sort, people a lot of times don't want to bring it up, because they think if I bring it up, I'll just upset them. And I think most people want it just acknowledged, that, you know, we're here for you. You don't have to go up and, you know, make them talk about it for a long period of time. Just going up and saying, I'm here for you if you need anything. Just being there for the person. I think sometimes that's all somebody wants, is you to acknowledge that they're hurting, they're going through a difficult time, and you're there for them.
When we talk about this, it's something that affects the entire family. It affects mom and dad, but if there are siblings in the mix, a brother or a sister, as parents or family members, how can we help them with that loss? Especially as it's further on, and they know that brother or sister is coming home, but then they may not come home. How do we help them to cope?
And I think you're right. Grandparents grieve too. You know, mom, dad, grandparents, because when you find out you're pregnant, everybody has this expectation. The siblings do too. I want to get a baby brother. I'm going to get a baby sister, and they get excited. I think a lot of it is just explaining to them, like any other death, whatever your beliefs are, that, you know, if you are a Christian, they went to heaven, things like that. I also think it's important to do some type of memorial service for the baby, even if it is a miscarriage. Sometimes doing something to acknowledge it, that way you can have some closure. I think that's important for children to understand that, you know, they have gone on to the afterlife, or whatever you believe. and acknowledging to them that it is a loss, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset that this expectation of being a big brother isn't happening right now, but it may happen in the future.
Well, before we let you go, I just want to know, especially in honor of this week, is there some way that friends, family, co-workers, can they honor the baby, ways that maybe they can help the person who's going through this cope and really honor that loved one that they've lost?
I think reaching out to somebody, sometimes people will start some kind of charity or thing like that, or do some kind of, you were talking earlier about a heart walk. Sometimes just, there are different types of walks. I know it's different now, we're doing a lot of stuff virtually, but a lot of times people will walk in honor of someone else, and I think that really shows somebody a lot, shows a lot to a person if their friend or colleague is doing some type of walk and they're honoring them and their child that they lost.
I think no gesture is too small. Even if you're a friend, a loved one, just stopping by, dropping a coffee off on someone's door, making a mixtape of music, or just something that makes you think of them. Those things really mean a lot and go a long way without feeling too invasive.
Well, and Amy, you brought up such a good point, because I think so often when we experience a loss, sometimes you may think it's a little difficult to reach out because you don't want to bring up those bad memories or the pain, but it can really go a long way.
It can. And those people, they know. I mean, they think about it every day, so you bringing it up isn't going to bring it up for them. They already know. So yes, just dropping off a coffee, dropping off some flowers, just doing anything for them, I think really touches their heart that, someone is thinking about me and they're acknowledging it.
Just to say that you're there. Well, Amy, this is an incredibly important week.
It is.
Glad to be talking about it. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.